Today we're taking the first steps in what is the most exciting time of the year, and that's harvest. For us, the first few things we do involve getting the combines ready, and we also get to use the old 4520 for its twice a year job of getting the corn heads in and out of our old white shed down to the southwest of the farm. Check this thing out though. Whew. She's pretty. Not quite in the same condition as some of the fancier ones you see. She's definitely had her better days. This is the only tractor though with enough 3-point power to lift our corn heads off the ground with this little header attachment device snapped onto the 3-point. But it can pick it up, and it's also short enough to get in the barn. Now our 8R tractors would definitely be able to pick up the corn heads, but they're way too tall with the cab on them. They just don't make them like this anymore. Oh man. Alright, just for my own enjoyment, let's start this baby up. Woo. Man, they don't make tractors like this anymore. Alright, one more time. Nice open air cab, just you, your radio. What more could you ask for? None of those amenities that our nice 9R tractors have nowadays. But they don't make tractors like this anymore. These things change farming. I'm not taking it down to the corn heads just quite yet. Dad usually drives it. He gets all crazy old school on this thing and drives it standing up, and I don't know, I've never had the experience of using this to farm, but my dad and his brothers and his late dad spent many years on this farm with equipment just like that. I'm gonna go down there and get some stuff out of the way, then Dad's gonna bring the 4520 down and pull out the corn heads. They're tucking away with a lot of our old equipment, but they don't need that great of conditions to be stored. We left a hay rack in the way, so I'm gonna back in and Jeff and I are gonna pull it out. Easy does it. Man, it's really hard watching this. This barn collects a lot of old things that we don't use. The only thing in there that is really in regular rotation are the corn heads. The reason we have to use this is because it's the only thing short enough to get in this barn, but with enough power to pick up the corn heads. Oh! That was close. Yeah. That's what they looked like last year. That'd be an awfully expensive fix for the one time we use this thing a year. You only walked over a few beans there. Don't worry, these things are designed to be able to run across the ground. When your corn's down or really low, you do sometimes have to run them on the ground like this. So we store them on the ground. We don't have a trailer for them. Here's an old 653A bean cutting head. As opposed to the new Drapers, this one would actually pull the beans individually by row, cut them, and deliver them up here. Now they're not row dependent, they can cut across any direction of the field. It's like an event at the county fair. hook them up and take them back to the farm to do a little bit of maintenance on them. You can see the sins of last year where we put this one away with a bent snout. Safe to say our job's a little bit multifaceted. We also specialize in tree removal on our own property, of course. This tree is pretty much track hoe size, but if you're digging up around the roots with the backhoe, you can eventually topple it over. So the game plan is just dig out the bottom to the point where it's got nothing holding it up and then just push it over. We're trying not to destroy any of this corn. You hear that? The backhoe is asking for grease. That's what that squealing noise is. Well, so much for not taking out any corn. It's like a hot knife through butter. Cleaning some of the mud off of the root ball. He's been digging on that for about an hour. A track hoe, I would say, could have done that in 20 minutes. But that's what remains. We're just cleaning up this section of the lot. I think we'll end up farming it at some point in the future. I'm not in charge of those decisions. That tree's at least a handful of decades old. You can see how elaborate the root system was, and we cut off a lot of it just to tap it over. All those fibrous roots at the bottom are what give these trees their stability. He's just working on cleaning it off. He looks to be rather confident that he's going to grab a hold of this and pull it. I do not think he can pull this tree. In my experience, he's going to break a limb off before he pulls this tree anywhere. You can't underestimate how much this mass weighs. The backhoe couldn't even pull the root ball. Okay, we're gonna get this sawed up. I'll check back in with you after we've cleaned it up a little bit. It's gonna take a while. It's a really big tree. 45 minutes later, and this is what we've got. All the foliage is off the top, put into the pile, other than just a few loose branches that fall off in the process. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do to this. But we got a pretty big hole to fill here where that tree was. It's kind of neat the stuff you can do with this backhoe if you really work at it and do it right. Like I said, a track hoe would be much better for this job. We got all these sticks and stuff, and we only had a little bit left to go, and Dad said that he wanted to go get a drink, which I didn't quite understand because, you know, in the backhoe, it's only like, might have been 65 degrees in there. I wasn't even working up a sweat. Although he was out and about running the chainsaw. He somewhat prefers the chainsaw over the backhoe, which I'm not going to complain about that. So, we're going to take a little break and then finish up the root ball on that. Cleaning up trees, tearing down trees, dealing with the root balls is by far the hardest and most abusive thing that this backhoe goes through on our farm. You know, doing small dirt projects isn't really that challenging for the backhoe, but the trees bump up against it, it's running over limbs, it's getting limbs wedged against it, stacking the pile. All things add up, I think, cumulatively to make this kind of hard on the backhoe, but that's what it's made for. It's a little brute. It's hot out. Heat index is 103 today. Humid too. The heaviest root ball was in there. That was the main set of roots for these trees. It took a lot of finagling to get it where it was. We had to pull and push and lift and roll, but it did go in eventually. Doing a little stacking. If you want any firewood, you've got about a couple weeks to come get it because it will be ash at some point. Fill in the crater. Can't even tell that there was a tree there at one point in time. Other than burning the pile of limbs itself, that pretty much concludes this project. One of the small odd jobs we have to do every now and then. We've got a house right here that Dad's in the process of taking down as well, but that's a job for someone with a track hoe. You can't really do that with the backhoe. Just received intel that there's a very, very strong storm making its way across Illinois right now. This storm cell, when it went through Iowa, supposedly had 100 miles an hour wind. I've seen pictures all over ag Twitter of the damage it's done, so my condolences to those people. I can't believe what I saw. Grain bins scattered left and right. So Dad and I are going to go down to the farm real quick, chain up the doors, kind of give them an extra layer of protection in case we do get a strong wind. Hopefully we do not get what they had, because we have a good crop going for us right now, and if we had a storm like that, it'd be over in no time. Let's take this thing for a spin. I have no idea how to shift this.
I had to rotate the key 20 times to get it to turn off.
Very few things as American as a John Deere 4520. Not the prettiest. Some people restore theirs, make them look pretty, fancy. I would say this is the second oldest tractor on our farm. And it probably does the second least amount of work. The old badge when it was sold, 4520 diesel. Back in the day when they used this for work, it would have had duals on it. It's a nice tractor. I really don't understand how to shift it very well. I wish I did. But I can hear that wind coming, so we're gonna hunker down here and see what happens. Fortunately, the storm ended up being all bark and no bite. Very little wind, if maybe 30-mile, 40-mile-an-hour gust here and there. Nothing to cause any kind of damage to the crop or any of our facilities around here. Again, I still feel really bad for those farmers out in Iowa. I'll put a couple pictures here in the end for you guys to look at that I saw on Twitter of the devastation that some of these farmers face from 100-mile-an-hour plus winds. Unfortunately, those things just happen when you're dealing with Mother Nature, and they make insurance for a reason, so all that stuff will get rebuilt, I'd hope. Maybe some corn on the ground this fall. They won't have all those bins back up by then. Well, it's just raining, so I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, leave a comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe if you want to see more. Have a great day. Peace!